use them to my benefit, to be able to network better, to be able to create connections, to be able to use those connections for my benefit, and then having a long-term relationship with them. That can be an exchange of values. That's where connections really come from. I find connections something like this. We have one person, and you have this person. So you have Bob, and you have Lucy, right? These are people who are at the same event, right? But why are they even relevant? Like when you go to a networking event, what's relevant between you? There's nothing. Like the only thing you can really find in first point is like, oh, you're human, you like networking events, you've probably been involved in business, and you're trying to meet new people, right? That's something in common. But from that point of being able to say that you want to meet new people, at that point, they can somehow engage. And it's not such a strong engagement, right? It's like, oh, I'll talk to you, why not, right? But then what makes this a solid line is the exchange of values. What you can provide to them and what they can provide to you. That's what business essentially is, right? So if you can spark some sort of interest because you are a person of value and you can provide value to them somehow, that's when networking actually becomes powerful, right? And it's never a one-way stream. It's always two-way. Because if it's one way, the other person will give up pretty soon. Cool. So networking events. Around Waterloo. I've been to networking events at Community Tech. Awesome place. You guys should all go. I'm trying to find a way that you can come to Community Tech. Chamber of Commerce events, Velocity events, and there are also a few off-event parties, which are the smaller ones, right? At networking events, I would have to admit, the first one is the most awkward, confrontation I've ever had in my life. When I first went to my first networking event, I walked in and it was a breakfast, so I was up at like 7:30, and I was like, oh my god, why do I have to be there? And then one of our board of advisors, Grant Kingsbury, who is an expert networker, he walked up to me and he's like, hey, how you doing this morning? I'm like, oh, not too bad. I wanted to stay really tired and exhausted, but I'm like, we're doing well. And he's like, okay, good. Second thing he said to me, he's like, all right, go out there and get me 10 business cards. I was like, what? 10? I can't even talk to one person who's sitting at my table, right? He's like, 10 business cards. Unfortunately, for the networking event, I only landed 3, right? And those weren't even that good business cards. Wait, I should correct myself. There's no such thing as good connections and bad connections. All connections are good. So yeah, I landed only 3, but that number slowly started climbing, and I hit my first 10 after, I think, my 4th or 5th networking event, which was like a big accomplishment for me. And at that point, I started to realize, I also started to engineer how these connections are powerful for me. At networking events, you don't want to be the person. You don't want to be there. Oh, I'm from Isaac Gloria. Isaac is present in 112 countries. We have 6,000 members across the world. Oh, 475 conferences. Blah 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 blah. Cool, whatever. I'm not here to hear about your company. You don't go to networking events to pitch a product. You don't do that. You're there to sell yourself. You're there to. If you can be charming, if you can be engaging, right? If you can make their morning more delightful, because honestly, they're as not happy to be there as you are, right? They're tired and they want something of interest to spark their morning, to be able to engage them cognitively, right? So yeah, create something of interest. You don't have to talk about ISEC. Talk about topics which are up in the air. You can talk about Hurricane Sandy or the recent debates, or you can talk about how there's a tsunami coming on the West Coast, right? Yeah. And if you're really interested in networking, make sure you're up with the news. Make sure, because that's what people will be talking about. And make sure you do your research. Make sure you know what they're talking about. I'm going to a networking event, November 7th. It's something called Upstart Breakfast Series. They're all breakfasts, and what they're trying to do in Waterloo right now is trying to celebrate entrepreneurs who are coming out of the Waterloo region, right? And they're bringing on 3 CEOs, founders of companies who have now generated revenues of $500,000 plus, right? And they're one of the all-stars of the company, right? So if you're interested, come out to me, and I'll make sure that you get to that networking event, November 7th. And so when I know that there's 3 people speaking at that event, I make sure that I know about these people, and I try to position myself in a way that I know how I can benefit. So one of the persons who's presenting, his name is Derek Ting. He's part of this corporation called Enflick. They're working out of the Accelerator Center. And what I did yesterday was I looked up his company, I looked up his profile. I know that he's graduated from University of Waterloo with a systems design engineering degree 5 years ago. So I know a little bit about him. So I have some sort of background to be able to relate to him. Cool. Anything more I should say about networking? Any questions that you guys have? Networking is really, really, really powerful. Like really powerful. Like I didn't fully understand the value until I started making a difference through the networks I had. Come on.
How do networking events work? Like, you just go up and start talking? Like, how do you start talking?
They have some sort of an agenda, so they'll have some sort of like entertainment for you. Like I spoke about this event, they'll have, that's called a speaker series. So they'll have 3 people come up and talk, and they'll talk about their sponsors, and they'll talk about what community tech has been up to lately. And then they'll be like, oh cool, now you guys can grab food, chill, and like you can stay for as long as you want in that banquet, and you can network with people, whoever you like, right? Some people generally leave early because it's a work day. Some people stay for longer, which is great, right? Check, sir.
For a networking event that is not focused on like community techs, like let's say we're talking more of a general networking event where people are just getting together, a lot of people are trying to find jobs. How would you stand out at that? I guess how would you stand out compared to everyone else first?
So you're at an event where, as I understand it, other people who are looking for jobs?
Yeah, it's more of a, it's not I guess as much as a networking event, but more of a job fair, for example.
Oh, recruiters, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, community tech also holds that. Recently, I caught myself in that kind of position. I went to a networking event by someone called the Kitchener-Waterloo Company of Young Professionals. So they're mainly young people in the industry who are trying to generate new ideas and talk about with other people what they're doing and what they're doing, and so that you can come up with something new, right? And most of the time over there, you won't find many people who have decision-making power or even interested in ISIC because they're recent graduates themselves, right? And so at that point, the best idea is to, you would stand out. I think the thing that stands out most to me right now is our global network, right? Like compared to a person, an employee coming in, compared to an international.
Okay, but how about if this person is not an ISIC? You know, general speaking, if I want to be in a networking event, I have no connections to something like Isaac. How would you connect to somebody?
How would I connect to somebody? You have irrelevant who like what like even if you're a part of ISAC or not of ISAC, you have some sort of experience with you. It's just the process of you being able to find that, right? Like person like a science student who seems so irrelevant to a networking event, but I will guarantee you that you will find engineers there and you will be able to converse and relate in some manner. I'll give you an example. I was at a networking event at Chamber of Commerce. I met somebody who was an engineer down at Clever U, and he's involved with like a lot of in-depth engineering. And we talked about stuff like the founder of PayPal and the Tesla Motors company, which is Canadian founded by, I forget the name, but yeah, like the conversations will carry themselves. You just have to make sure that you're always engaged and make sure that you display interest. Like the key point is displaying interest. One of the things I strongly believe in is that it's not about being talented or being having that natural flow or that skill. It's about being persistent. It's being able to constantly go at it, right? If you can walk into a networking event first time, you will never do networking perfectly, right? But if you keep going, eventually you'll get it right? Like I sucked at networking events. I was like disgustingly horrible. Like I got the least number of business cards than everybody else that came with me from ISIC, right? But like I kept at it, and eventually now like I feel very comfortable at networking events. So it's the persistence portion, and that will make you a better networker. Carmen.
What's the first thing you say to people at a networking event?
Good question. Sometimes I go with, so sometimes they'll have name tags, and they'll be like, oh, I'm someone from Isaac Laurier, right? And they'll notice, instead of Isaac, they'll most probably notice Laurier. Like, oh, you're a student. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a student. I'm going in this program, and I'm doing this, and my future plans are that, this, that, right? And but what I try to do is like I maneuver it in a way that I have them talking about themselves. Because honestly, you'll find at these events that people love talking about themselves. Like these are people who come to these networking events and they just want to talk. Like that's all they want, right? And if you can, like if you can maneuver it in a way that you get them talking, they'll just like rant down for a while. Sometimes they'll get annoying because they keep on talking, and it's like you're talking about your grandma. Like what's going on, right? But like just try to engage. Like if they they'll talk about their story. Like oh, I graduated with master in medical sciences and I changed my career and I took an MBA, and now I run a clinic, right? Oh, my mother runs a clinic too, and then that's something to relate to, right? They'll lay out the story, and you can just pinpoint whatever you think is something that's relatable to, right? And that's what conversation can flow.
What happens if you like?
Your
end
name
up
first? Sorry. Your
Oh,
name?
Melissa.
Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Or what happens if like you talk to someone, but they start to get onto like this like path, and then they keep talking, and you don't like. How do you politely say like, "I'm gonna go talk to someone else"? Like, I know like it's like if you're like talking to them for like 20 minutes, and it's just like it's not like you've like I don't know. You're not.
Yeah, I completely understand. That's a tough one. At that point, you try to take control of the conversation. I got caught up with some person who told me that they were in transition. I never knew that meant they were unemployed, right? And so like they were talking about like how much experience they have, and I was like, cool, like this is not like it's like you talked to me about for 10 minutes, right? I'm like I gotta get going, right? Like I gotta do some stuff. So at that point, I tried to like tell them like, oh, we do ISEC, and I took control of the conversation. I was like, oh, we do global internships for students. He's like, oh, for students. He's like, oh, I'm not really applicable. I can't really do this for you. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess. But it was nice meeting you. And then at that point, when they have like no answer, not a real answer, he said, oh, it was nice meeting you. Thank you for your time.
That's a good one.
Or I'm just gonna go grab some water. Right? That's a good way to get out of the conversation. I'm still finding the perfect way. I'll let you guys know when I find it. Cool. I guess we should move on. We've spent 15 minutes on this. Cool. Social media.
Well, let's start with interviews since that was the other big one.
Alright, good point. Interviews. So where I draw my experience, like I haven't done too many interviews to people. Like I haven't applied for many jobs. Like I prefer like doing my own thing. I never worked for a part-time job, so I never really had to apply. But like my experience comes from being able to bring an intern in. So Owen, who came in to work for CWS, I was responsible for conducting interviews with him and making sure that he is a credible candidate that ISEC would support as someone that we provide as a person, right? So that's where I'll draw my experiences from. When a person comes in for an interview, being on the other side of the table, I got to realize a lot of things that were not so notable in the beginning. Things like I did not like the enthusiasm that someone brings to the table. Irrelevant, like Owen is a person who was not the most qualified person for the job. There were people who applied who were master's students, right? Who had completed their masters in marketing, right? Which is directly relevant to the position we were hiring for. Whereas Owen only had a degree in political science. Like how do you draw the connection from political science to marketing? You don't really see it, right? But like the energy that Owen brought to the table by being so outwardly open, interested in the position, as well as interested in learning more about ISEC and more about the company. So I would say like the most qualified person is not always the person you want to hire. Maybe that's because like if the person is the right person to do the job, but he doesn't do the job, he's no use, like nothing. Like he's actually a detriment because you don't know how to get that out of him, right? But a person who is there and willing to learn, that is more than enough, right? As long as you have that energy and persistence to keep going, whatever it may be, you will learn and you will eventually perform, right? Coming into interviews, you guys probably know the basic things. Dress up well, always show up before time, 10 minutes. Like, I think 10 to 15 minutes is a good range. Don't be afraid to nag them. Like, once you submitted your resume and you're doing your interviews, like, don't be afraid to, like, nag them about, how do you think the interview went, and things of the sort, right? Like, ask questions and they'll be interested. I used to think, like, once I applied for a job, I thought, like, oh man, I'm meeting them, like, 3 times a week, right? Like, they must be, like, annoyed by me. They don't want to see my face. But no, like, the fact that a person who's not even part of the company, who's not even working for them yet, who's not even getting paid by them, and is still showing interest, is getting more emails than an actual employee, that says something, right? That has an effect on them, right? And, like, the more you can keep on top of mind, the better you are off. You have to, like, there's idea in marketing, like, that you always keep on top of mind. Like, that's why we see so many ads. That's why we see so many billboards. Different techniques to be able to market to people. Like, they'll do, like, samples. Just keep on top of mind, right? Always being able to remember, right? That will go a long way. What was one other point I was going to make? I forget. Any questions? No? Cool. Let's talk about social media. So, what are social medias? Anyone?
Facebook.
Yeah.
Twitter.
Twitter?
LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's the magical one.
Does Pinterest count?
Yeah, it does.
And Instagram.
You don't end it. It's crazy. Holy. Okay, we're gonna pick one more.
MySpace.
Yay!
Who still uses that? I think Justin Timberlake bought it out or something.
It's so fun.
Yeah. Right, random.
Okay. Maybe later. So, do you think they're all the same? All these social medias, are they the same? No. Why?
They have like different purposes and you connect with people differently on different types of medias. So like for example, Tumblr, I think you can interact with people you don't even know, follow their blogs and stuff. Whereas Facebook, that's more like your personal connections. Whereas LinkedIn is more like your business world. And they all kind of tie in, like you should be careful what you put on all of them. But they are like for separate uses.
Perfect. Any other points on social media as to how they're different and how they can be used?
I think it's also like a different message because obviously like Pinterest, Tumblr, Instagram, it's all like through pictures, right?
Mhm.
And then obviously Twitter, you're restricted to like really short messages as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
Cool. I wouldn't say restricted, I would say like, it's also invalid, right? Like, because you have to read short messages. But yeah, no doubt. Great. People get unemployed because of Facebook. Why? Because they put up information that their employer saw, and which could be like infringement of a contract, like what do they call it? Privacy contract? No. I don't know. Like the one that you can't release certain information.
Confidentiality.
Confidentiality. There you go. So Twitter using small information. So you'd be surprised what kind of businessmen use what social medias. A person like Alan Corey, he's used to be a marketing professor at Wolf Laurier, but he also owns a company that was run by his business, by his grandfather. It's a marketing firm and for communications for businesses, and it's one of the most successful ones in the Waterloo Kissimmee St. Jacobs area, right? And he tweets more than any teenager I know. Like he'll tweet like at least 25 times a day, right? He's really, really, really active. Like when I had to get in touch with him, I did not email him. I tweeted at him, and he responded, which was like epic. Instagram, yeah. So I'm going to focus more on. Cool. LinkedIn is very specific to like networking, right? My connections, when I first began CR work back in February of this year, I only had 2 connections. That was I think my brother and one of my friends from high school. I had 2 connections. At this point, I have 250. I feel so damn accomplished. Like I was like, oh man, I gotta get up to like 500. Because at the point of 500, it's just like, oh, 500 plus, right? They can't tell how many you have. I was like, I have 1,000. You don't know. So yeah, LinkedIn is the professionally used one. Some people misuse it. They create this account and they will personal message people who they don't know. They just want to connect. And when you connect with people, you're supposed to send a message as to how you relate to them. So this is how it ties in with networking. So say if you spoke to a person at a networking event about the World Cup, right? And you connected on sports, right? You would make that reference when you connected with them. You'd be like, oh, hey, it was great meeting you at some level event. I really enjoyed our conversation about da-da-da. And if there's something that you want from them, or you think there's a value, a mutual benefit that you can pursue, go for it. Like enter it there, right there and then, right? And that's how you connect with them. But there are people at default it says, hey, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn, and that's what they send me. Like I have like 15 invitations, and now they say just that. And there's like all over from Isaac. Like you're from Isaac Brazil, Isaac Costa Rica, Isaac Slovakia, Isaac Russia. Like people connect just because I'm on Isaac, and that's not appropriate. Like you can't connect with somebody unless you don't know them. Unless you're getting an introduction done. That's different. But as long as if you don't know them or you don't have any relevance to them, don't add them. Don't do it. Like even LinkedIn will monitor you and they'll block you off LinkedIn. Right? It's like pretty serious. And also Facebook, I know it's like more personal, and you can use it towards putting up photos. But don't put up photos of you like partying, or if you're like a naked at a party. Like don't do it. Like Facebook will probably block you, but like people will see it. Like you may be able to control your privacy at some extent, but like at the end of the day, it's like it's on the web, and Facebook policies do say that once you've uploaded it on the website, it and anybody can copy it. Like your photos, anybody can copy it and alter them in any way they wish, right? So be careful when you're posting stuff on Facebook as well. Twitter, do use it. It's very up and coming. Another thing, it's not really social media, but I use it a lot to connect with people. Especially when you're Isaac, it's really fun to connect with people through Skype because it's a face-to-face interaction. It's almost like they're there. It's really a lot more intimate than stupid emails. Like I hate emails because like you don't get a response from emails. You don't get like once you have a Skype interview, like you'll get that stuff done within the day, right? But if you have an email, they're like, I'll just archive this one. Cool. Any questions for social media? No? Who has a LinkedIn account? Yeah, well done, guys.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
For Twitter, do you feel like you should have a professional Twitter and then a personal Twitter?
Interesting. I would say that Twitter is a platform for you to combine those two. I would recommend that you use don't use Twitter to like you could tweet at friends, but like don't tweet to like for like jokes and stuff. Twitter can be something that can combine your interests. Like if you're like pursuing something like music, right? Like you can talk about music and the professional network. That will help you achieve both. It's like broadcast, like basically like broadcast, like RSS feeds. It's basically like you being able to convey your message to a mass of people who you don't have to personally know, right? As long as they're following you, as long as your content is good, people will follow you. And once they start following you, they'll receive the news feed. And that's something like Twitter is a platform for you to be able to share stuff, right? And at times it can be a one-way stream, but I wouldn't recommend that. Like two separate accounts, that can get a little iffy. It could work, but like I recommend that you use that platform where you combine your interests with your professional life.
This is just like kind of a note, but my floor, we went to the Laurier office in Toronto, and we talked to Laurier alumni, and then I like talked to one of the guys, or one of the guys who was there, and then ended up emailing him after, and then I added him on LinkedIn, and he accepted, and then one of my friends didn't talk to him at all, or didn't email him, so he didn't like know who he was, and so she added him on LinkedIn, so we would have like met at the same thing, but she didn't get like accepted. So it's like important to make sure that you draw a connection, so they know what your name is and like who you are.
No doubt. Follow emails are awesome.
And to build off that, like once you have your connections, feel free to ask them to ask them about their work, and if they, is there possible for you to sit down with coffee, talk about work, or I want to learn more about the company. Can you teach me a bit or tell me a bit more about it?
Exactly.
Right? Because now they're your connections. So that's what LinkedIn is there for.
Yeah. It's like more intimate than Facebook, because like Facebook you have friends that you don't really remember anymore. But like for LinkedIn, like you have these are connection and they've agreed to like exchange value with you because they saw something in you, right? And at that point, like what the CR portfolio is doing right now, they're trying to create a system of like exchange of value. So building champions. What do I say? So you build certain people who you think have a very strong network, right? And there's somebody who's close enough to you who will be able to share connections with you, right? So what you can do is like find these people, look up their LinkedIn, right, and find the connections that you think are relevant to you, and then from there you can be like, oh, can we sit down for coffee, right? And then ask them specific people who you want to get connected to, right? They can do an introduction. That's called a warm lead, right? A referral, right? At that point, like people will be more inclined to talk to you. So if like Melissa knows that Laurier alumni I really want to talk to, right? I can ask Melissa, be like, oh Melissa, could you just give me an introduction to that Laurier alumni? I really think we could benefit, right? Like, oh, cool, right? And then you just write me an email, CC me, or like even through LinkedIn, there's a feature to introduce other people, right? It's a really good way to expand your network. This is called this is first degree connections, second degree, and then third degree, right? Cool. Good point, Chung. Anything else? And then you can finally move to where is the middle? We're good? Cool. We'll keep this real quick. Resume building. Again, I draw my experience from looking through a lot of resumes. What used to happen, we used to open up the internship, and people would apply to it online, sending emails to the TA manager or like just the LC itself. And we got like every day we get like 30 or 35 applications because like Canada is like a really hot spot for people for coming in for internships. And so when we get they would always attach a resume. They would call it CV, curriculum vitae, right? What the thing that most stands out to me in resumes is like try to keep it short and relevant. Like if you've worked like 5 part-time jobs and you worked full-time as well, but like you're applying for a job at like a bank as a teller, right? But you put down a position as like a ski resort instructor or like a waitress. Like maybe it's relevant. Like maybe there's certain skill that you've learned there are relevant to it, but make sure that they somehow apply. That you're able to demonstrate how you have learned with your experiences and which can be applicable in the new positions you're applying for, right? Like I know a person who has a resume of 4 pages, right? 4 pages long resume. Like no one's gonna flip through that. Like people, like companies usually receive like stacks and stacks of resumes, and they just flip into it like oh. No, like they just look for keywords, like the bolded letters they look for. So if there's something that is a keyword that you think really fits, so if you're like a counselor, you can be like compassionate, right? And then they'll pay attention to it then, right? But just try to keep it relevant. Question.
I just wanted to say, I have like this friend I want to do, he's a really big keener. And so when he was doing his co-op applications, he did this experiment of like how many offers he'd get from like a 2-page resume versus a 1-page resume. And it was by far landslide 1-page resumes. He got offers like rank and everything, and 2 pages if you didn't even look at them.
Yeah.
So like, and it's like the same resume just condensed.
That's a really cool experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny to see.
Yeah, I've also seen that what people do is like if you're handing a physical copy, they put it in a different color. Like print the page in a different color. Like they'll all see white, but they'll be like, oh, what the hell is the green resume doing here? So they'll pay special attention. Like subconsciously they won't do it on purpose, but subconsciously they'll pay more attention to that green piece of paper because it stands out in the stack, right? Or like put in a binder or something like that.
You put in like harder paper too, like cursive paper.
Yeah, no doubt. Like something to make you stand out. Questions? Anything else you want to learn about CR? Do you guys want to do CR work? No?
What's CR?
Oh, corporate relations and incoming exchange. So yes, I always forget incoming exchange because we haven't done a lot of it. But yes, I take care of both. We have an intern coming in January. She's coming from Spain. Yay!
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Oh, she's gonna be working at MapleSoft. Have you guys heard of Maple TA?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that mathematics software. So that company we got an intern with. Yeah, so if you now I know I know all the HR managers there.
Yeah.
Job applications? Yeah. That's how you build your networks. Anything else? So yeah, MapleSoft is the company that makes Maple, and that's the company that I got to network with. Now I know the HR managers there, and that's like one benefit that comes. Like even when you leave ISEC, you don't leave those connections behind. They come with you, right? You can. That's something. That's a very strong point. That's one reason why I do corporate relations work because I get to take this away with me.
What does CR do?
So what our main responsibility is being able to maintain and grow our relations with the business community in Waterloo, Kitchener. That includes external community and also like university, right? So University of Waterloo, Wilfrid Laurier University, that's something we foster. Weaker relations, so try to see if we can add value to them or they can add value to us, and then have that exchange. And our main goal is obviously raising an internship, so that they take on an intern. But then we can move to other things like sponsorship. Like they'll give us sponsorship money, and we'll put like their logos on our shirt, or we'll give them an avenue to come speak at Laurier to make better recruitments with Laurier, because getting into a university is sometimes can be a challenge, but that's something we can allow, right? And like conferences, like our conferences are one of the most largest in Canada, right? Like that's something like the amount of energy that how many of you have been to a conference? Yeah, you can ask these people the amount of energy that you'll see in a plenary. Like plenary is like the main gathering where everybody's present. Like that kind of energy is awesome. So yeah, we can allow them to speak there, right? Where they get access to 300 plus students to speak to all across Canada. So yeah, that's basically what corporate relations does. And then there's incoming exchange. So once we found the perfect intern for them, the contract has been signed and everything has been done. At that point, we have we work through our system. myisaac.net, and things of the sort to find the right intern for them. And then we match the exchange participant to the traineeship nominee. Right? We match that, and that's what I did this morning with MapleSoft. So we matched Lucia Haflikova with MapleSoft. So they've been matched today, and now is the process of applying for a visa. That's usually one of our biggest delays. So we have a 1.5 month to 2 month expected delay. Isaac gets special privileges when applying for the visa. We have faster return rate, and so hopefully it should be in by January. And then we also help them with accommodations, bank accounts, SIM card, finding a place to live, friends to find, bring them out to our events. We have 2 interns currently, Iris Wang and Owen Mulgrew. Hopefully they can be here not this weekend because there's a worse encore happening, but the weekend after. So hopefully if you guys come out, or maybe even at the GA, we can get the interns to come in and spin with you guys. Yeah, I haven't been before. Cool.
Thank you, Salman. Next Tuesday we're gonna have Greg Schott. He's an external from Schott Solutions. He's gonna be talking to us about managing an effective meeting. And also I see a lot of you guys here right now. Everybody has to sign in before you guys leave. Thank you so much for coming. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you,
If you guys want to go to the networking event on November 7th, come talk to me.
How long is this Friday?
Networking event is happening on November 7th. If you're interested in coming out, let me know. It's a great opportunity.
Sorry. No.
Okay.
What time is it?
No, I heard on
What time is the networking conference?
Yeah, because I want to make sure I'm getting out more people like you guys. Yeah, I know you guys is playing.
He's killing me.
Yeah.
November 7th. If you get one right on your emails, I will.
Okay.